Welcome to another episode of the PVP Podcast. And I'm joined again here with Giancarlo. Giancarlo, say hi.
What's up, everybody?
Today, we have an exciting topic to talk about. We like to call it our strategy. Giancarlo, start us off.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, okay, we have our very own strategy that we apply to our day-to-day real estate investing. And we've called it the lift strategy.
Now, break us down for it.
So it's a very specific strategy that we use when we look for property and essentially just invest in real estate. So let's let you guys know exactly what LIFT stands for. Letter by letter?
Letter by letter.
Letter by letter.
L.
So L stands for locate. All right. So this part of the strategy, guys, essentially what we do is we locate underperforming or undervalued properties. Now, what do these underperforming or undervalued properties look like? They could be a property that's rented for below market value. And when I say below market value, I mean 5, 6, 7, 800, 900, even $1,000 below market value. This could be a neglected property that needs a ton of renovations. This could also be a property that has an absentee owner. For example, an owner who lives out of province, out of country, out of state. And essentially something that you know that you could purchase with built-in equity off the bat.
Ultimately, it's a property that needs a lot of work,
Yeah.
a lot of time, and a lot of cash in order to optimize. Because of these three factors, you're able to secure a property quite inexpensively. And there are strategies that we could use in order to optimize the rents and get you a positive cash flow.
Exactly. And like L stands for locate for a reason, because these properties are generally not that easy to come across. Yes. You need to have a very specific marketing strategy to locate these types of properties. But when you do locate these properties, that's when you know you got a solid investment right in front of you.
And the best thing to do is to take action. You know, oftentimes we think a little bit too much about it. Okay, let's move on to I.
Without thinking too much about it, let's move on. So I, guys, stands for improve. Now, once you've found the property, okay, and you know it's underperforming and you know it's undervalued and you know it needs renovations, needs to be optimized in rent, this is where you move on to the next letter of the strategy, I, which is improve. Now, what does improve mean? Well, it depends what type of property you're working with here, right? So if you're, working with a physically neglected property, then improve might mean you need to bring it up to par, bring it up to standard with renovations, some curb appeal, some paint, maybe even just freshen the whole thing up, right?
And improve in other senses can mean you have tenants that are maybe not paying their rent. Maybe they're extremely dirty. Maybe there's an infestation. Well, improve means get them out. Exactly.
And optimize that rental value. See, if you locate a underperforming property, what does this mean? This means that you've located a property that's rented way below market value, right? Way below market value could be as low as $1,000 under the rental value. How many properties have we seen, that there are units renting for $800 when it could be renting for $1,800?
And how many property owners do we speak to that say, oh, you know what, I'm deciding not to raise the rents as much this year? Yeah, well, the reality is your rent and your revenues dictate how much you're going to sell your property for at the end of the year or whenever you're planning on selling.
Or refinancing.
You're exactly. Absolutely right. So when you do that, you're just lowering the value of building. And that's where we come in and we find these properties that are undervalued because of the low rents, and we take advantage of this strategy.
Exactly. So when you locate that property and you improve it, then you move on to F. What does F stand for? Fill. So now you've located an undervalued property. It needs some renovations. It has some low-paying tenants. You work your way around the improvement portion of it. You get the tenants out of there. You renovate the property. You lift the value of the property, but you're ultimately lifting the value of the rental as well.
Yeah.
Right? So this is when you move on to F, fill. Fill the property with quality tenants paying market value.
Right? So even before you make that investment to improve the property, You could still likely rent the property in many cases. It's going to be in, we'll say, maybe not the greatest condition, but by improving and putting in a bit extra money in these renovations, you're going to get a ton more money than you could have thought initially.
Yeah. Now, guys, let's just talk about improving for a second. Okay. Let's take a step back for a second. You know, you look at a property and when you think of the word improve, you're automatically thinking, wow, I got to spend a ton of money in renovations.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily the case.
And you know what it is? People also think that renovations in general cost a lot of money. And there are so many little things you can do yourself that can lift the property value
100%.
And the rental value.
100%. Now, when you improve a property for the purpose of filling it with a tenant, you're not really going all out on the renovations either. You're not putting the most expensive countertops. No. You're not putting the most expensive tiles, right? You're looking for basic, clean, quality materials, and you're renovating with that. So what that means is if I have a duplex that I'm going to lift, you know, and I'm shopping for tiles or flooring, why would I buy the flooring at $5 a square foot when I could get the flooring at $3 a square foot, which is just as aesthetically pleasing?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything in terms of rental value.
No. It's the same way how, you know, we get asked, okay, well, I'm going to put engineered wood.
Right.
Well, you know what? At that
point,
point,
is a thing of the past, by the way, engineered wood, because it's all vinyl and floating now. But
that's what I'm saying. Instead of doing that, put the vinyl, put that down.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. At the end of the day, it's an investment property. Whether you have wood, whether you have vinyl flooring, it's still going to rent. And I'm telling you, it's still going to look clean with the vinyl flooring.
Oh, 100%. And like he said, it's still going to rent. Right. So this is the whole point of the lift strategy.
And I just want to say, you're not going to rent it for more money just because you have wood.
Oh, 100%. The rental value is the rental value. And I think this is what people don't understand. You know, like a renovated unit is a renovated unit and will rent for the maximum rental value.
For sure.
Regardless of the quality. So with that being said, we don't do cheap renovations either. No. But we won't put a granite countertop in a unit that we're looking to rent, right? We'll put arborite, right? Something which looks just as aesthetically pleasing, you know, it's just as durable. And if anything, it's more durable in terms of, you know, longevity when it comes to tenants. But it'll still rent for the same amounts because the market rental value is the market rental value.
For sure. And obviously, guys, there are exceptions to these rules. Like if you're renting luxurious real estate, okay, you're going to put the floating toilet, you're going to go all out. But this is obviously not the case. This is not what we're talking about right now.
No. So you've done you've located the property, you've improved it, you've filled it up with quality tenants. Huge step here. Quality tenants, because you don't want to put all that work in renovations to fill it up with a tenant who's going to destroy it in less than 2 years, right? That's the whole point. Quality tenants means you're going to find somebody who's going to take care of your property as if it was their own, who's going to live there for a long time. And even if they live for 3 years instead of 5 years in your rental unit, they're quality tenants that will take care of the product, which preserves its lifespan.
Yeah. And before you guys ask what makes for a quality tenant, how do you get those very few quality tenants on the market? I think, Giancarlo, you have a little bit to say about this.
Guys, don't skip out on your credit checks. Don't skip out on your background checks. And do not take the first tenant that just flashes money your way. I've seen too many landlords make this mistake based on the fact that they needed to fill their units and they took whatever tenant flashed money. Go thorough on the credit check. And for anyone who's been following us for a while, you know that we spoke about this in one of our episodes, how renting to tenants is a huge step, you know, when you're a real estate investor. And there's so many steps you could take. You know, the pre-screening step, from the minute the phone rings, you are in charge of your unit. So you need to ask pre-screening questions. Could be simple as, where do you live now? How long have you lived there? What do you do for work? Why are you moving? Just to give you a great idea of the tenant before you move on.
Yeah, I love the work question.
Yeah.
I love the work question.
Yeah, I like the work question
proof
too.
of employment. Okay. What's your job description? Because if you find people that are passionate about their jobs, who are doing really well in their jobs, they're going to take care of your unit. I don't know. That's my experience.
Yeah. And then you've done all that due diligence.
We're down
You've
to the final
filled
letter.
the property with a quality tenant, and now we're down to the final letter of the strategy.
T.
T. What does T stand for? T stands for track. So what does this mean? You're tracking the property's profitability with quality property management. Whether you hire our team to be a property manager, whether you hire an external property manager, whether you're self-managing the property yourself,
Do it right.
do it right. You're tracking the profitability with efficient property management. So what does this essentially do? This makes sure that it keeps your expenses low, keeps your profit margins high, make sure that the property is making you money every month instead of costing you money every month.
And it also ensures that the property will be well maintained over the years, not only inside of the units, but also the exterior, right?
Exactly.
Getting those regular maintenance done before something even worse comes from it.
Exactly. So to recap, guys, the lift strategy, this is the strategy that we apply in our day-to-day investing. And this is the strategy that we teach our community members to apply, because the lift strategy is all about thinking like a real estate investor. You see, real estate investors don't buy with emotions.
No, they don't.
They don't buy
They
with
look at the
emotions.
numbers, they look at the price, they say to themselves, what is the potential earnings of this as an investment? And what do I have to do? Meaning, what is the money? What's the hard work I got to put into this building
Right.
in order to get it to that potential?
Right, 100%. And, you know, like a buddy of mine who's a real estate investor, he operates with the lift strategy, Burr method, you know, whichever way you want to look at it. And he just bought a deal. We were talking the other day.
Great deal.
He just bought a deal, a triplex in Saint Michel. And shout out Phil if you're listening. He just bought a triplex in Saint Michel for $525,000 off a wholesaler, and he is going to add $70,000 of renovations on it. But then he's going to be able to sell that property for $800,000. So his total investment is going to be $600,000. But when he invests that $600,000, he's going to be able to flip that property for $800,000.
And do you know his timeline on that?
So he's going to do that, he told me, in less than 6 months.
In less than 6 months.
Less
So
than 6
imagine
months.
this, guys. You could buy a triplex. Let's just say he's putting down 20% down, right? It's an investment property. He's putting down 20%. So he's putting down approximately $100,000 into this. He's going to put an additional $75,000. That's $175,000. He's going to end up paying 6 months of interest payments, even though those 6 months of interest payments, let's just say it accumulates until what, $10,000?
Yeah.
Right? You're looking at we'll say $200,000 if you're even going over budget. And then he's going to make an additional $200,000 from the sale. Yeah, you have to pay closing costs. You got to pay the broker. But even if you make $150,000
6 months, guys, 30
in
grand
6
a month.
months,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a 75% return on equity.
Yeah. And all that is done using the lift strategy, right? And it's all done using these methods that investors use, right? Because money is made when you buy a property. Money's not made when you sell the property. And that's what a lot of people think. And those less investor savvy people, they think that money is made when you sell the property. But money is actually made when you buy the property, right? So by operating the lift strategy, you're able to locate an undervalued and underperforming property with built-in equity. You're able to improve it by bringing up the value through renovations, and then you're able to fill it with quality tenants paying market value because you've renovated the property up to modern standards. And then you must track it with efficient property management to make sure that the property remains profitable. And when you apply this strategy once, you're going to want to apply it again and again and again and again. You're never going to want to buy a property at regular market value.
It's so easily replicatable. So, and it's really a no-brainer. After what you do with it is up to you. You could sell it like Phil's doing.
Yeah.
You could remortgage it. You could refinance it. You could take
keep
money
it.
out, do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Right? So the options are there.
Exactly. So the lift strategy, guys, locate, improve, fill, track. I want you guys to study this. I want you guys to remember this. If you have any questions whatsoever on this type of strategy, reach out to us on our Instagram page, comment on this video on YouTube, reach out to us directly, book a call with one of us where we could take you through the lift strategy, because this is truly what we stick by, what we do ourselves, and what we teach our community members to look for. And anything else you want to add to that?
I could not have said it better. Give us a call, give us a text. We're here to help you.
And reach out, guys. Book a call. Exactly. We're happy to inform you, sit down with you virtually, physically, if you're located close enough, and we could talk about real estate for forever. Yeah, forever. So lift strategy, guys. Locate, improve, fill, track. If you want to know more, reach out to us. And once again, guys, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the PVP podcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe wherever you're watching: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else we are. Until the next episode, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Be good.